environment variables. Okay, so in microservice in the 12-factor app, there is a separate term or a separate rule saying that you should not store the configuration files inside the container as a file. Okay, so this is a best practice. Whenever you are using any configurations for your application, try to use them as an environment variable. So how to pass an environment variable to a container is a very important factor we need to see. Okay, so the environment variables can be passed inside the Docker file, right? Or during the execution of the Docker file, you can also pass environment variables. You can pass multiple environment variables for a Docker container, and also you can pass a file which is containing the environment variables to a Docker container. So this is what we are going to see. The first example we are going to see is how to pass the environment variable to the container from the Docker file. So this is the first example we are going to see. So let me come out of this. So mkdir API file. So here also let me use the busy box from busy box. So the command to pass environment variable is env. Okay, and let me define variable 1 equal to Docker and variable 2 equal to. So this is how you can pass environment variables to your containers. Cat file. So the command in Linux to print the environment variable is called env. So I'm just running the env command on my local machine. You can see some environment variables it is printing, right? So in the same way, let me try to get the default environment variables available in my busybox machine. So the command is docker exec busybox env. Sorry, docker run. Docker run. So the busybox container is having some 3 environment variables. They are path, host name, and home. These are all the 3 environment variables available. So let me build the Docker file. Docker build -t environment dot. So let me build it as with the name environment. And if I run this docker run environment env, I can see the 2 variables which I defined in the Docker file are now available inside the container. So this is how you can pass a environment variable in the Docker file. So the next concept we are going to talk about is called how to pass the environment variable during the runtime. So let's do that. So Docker run. To pass an environment variable during the runtime, the option is -e variable 3 equal to AWS and so you can see it is adding a additional environment variable from which is not in the Docker file. So this is how you can pass a environment variable during the runtime. So the next option I want to talk about here is called, imagine I have the container running. Okay. So, let's say I have an environment variable defined in the Docker file, but on the runtime, I need to override that, right? Let's say I have a common container created, which is having a DB server as a value. During the runtime, I want to change the value of the DB server. I can do it. So there is a precedence for the environment variables. So let's see that. So instead of this variable 3, if I call it as variable 1, because variable 1 has a value in the Docker file, in the runtime, if I pass any value, so the whatever the value I'm passing in the runtime will override the environment variable in the Docker file. So this is the variable precedence in Docker. So if I pass the value in the runtime, that will take the precedence than the value in the Docker file. So the next example in the environment variable is, like, let's say I have a huge number of environment variables. I will store all the environment variables in a file, and that file I want to pass it as an input. Okay, how do I do that? So let's see that. So let me create a file called env file. One is equal to, let me just call it as 2 equal to var 3 equal to so save this file and file so this is my environment variable file. So let me pass this. So the option is Docker run -it file. So I need to provide the complete location of the file. So the file is available in the same directory. So I can just use that file and then environment env. So you can see that here also it is overriding the value from the Docker file, and it is using the value from the environment env file. Because there I have the variable 1 as Docker and variable 2 was training. But as I'm passing the value from a file, it is taking the value from the file. So here also precedence is going to be work in a different way. Let's say, let me run the same thing and adding to the env file, let me pass the environment variable as a separate thing. For example, we pass this one and let's see how it is going to react. So I have value for variable 1, I have values at 3 positions. One is in the Docker file, and another one is in the env file. Another one is I'm in the runtime, I'm passing a different value for the variable 1. So which one will be printed? Any guess? Yeah, runtime takes the maximum priority. Even the file is passed during the runtime, I'm explicitly specifying a value for the variable. So this one takes the topmost priority. So whenever I pass an environment variable, if you pass it with -e, that takes the topmost priority.